There are words you can't take back. Words that hang in the air long after they're spoken. Words that change everything even if you pretend they don't. For me, it happened on a Thursday night in March. Her name's Leah. We'd been together for 9 years, married for 6. On the surface, our life looked steady. We had a house, 2 cars, decent jobs. Dinners with friends, trips on long weekends, the kind of relationship people from the outside assume is solid. But cracks don't show on the surface at first. They form slowly, deep underneath, until one day you step wrong and the whole thing gives out. That night, we were sitting in the living room. I'd just come home from work, loosened my tie, and collapsed on the couch. She was scrolling on her phone, half watching some reality show in the background. I asked her something simple, want me to order pizza or should I cook? She didn't even look up. Whatever. Doesn't matter. That was Leah lately. Detached. Short. Like every word she gave me cost her something she didn't want to spend. I tried again. Long day. That's when she sighed, put her phone down, and looked at me. Not with anger. Not with sadness. Just with this flat honesty that felt colder than either. You're not the man I wanted, she said quietly. You're the man I settled for. She said it like it was nothing. Like she was talking about picking the wrong brand of cereal at the grocery store. But it hit me like a truck. I froze. My chest felt like someone had reached in and squeezed the air out of it. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. What do you even say to that? She didn't wait for an answer. She just picked her phone back up, leaned against the armrest, and started scrolling again. Conversation over. I sat there in silence, staring at her, every memory we'd built together flashing through my head, our wedding, our first apartment, the nights we stayed up until 2 a.m. laughing about nothing. And all I could think was, to her, I was just the consolation prize. The rest of that night, I went through the motions. I ordered the pizza. We ate in silence. We watched TV. We went to bed. She turned away from me like she always did, scrolling on her phone until she drifted off. But I didn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, her words echoing again and again. You're the man I settled for. And in that silence, something inside me shifted. It wasn't rage. It wasn't even heartbreak. It was clarity. Because if I was really the man she settled for, then she had already made her decision about me a long time ago. And no matter what I did, no matter how hard I worked, how patient I was, how much I gave, she was never going to see me as enough. The question wasn't whether she loved me. The question was why I was still trying to love someone who admitted she never really chose me in the first place. That's when I made my decision. I wasn't going to fight her for respect. I wasn't going to beg her to see me differently. I was going to make my move in silence. And when the time came, she'd realized just how much she lost when the man she settled for decided he was done settling for her. But here's the thing about moves like that, you don't rush them. You wait. You plan. You let the other person get comfortable, convinced everything's fine. So that's exactly what I did. Over the next few weeks, I smiled when she spoke. I cooked dinner like always. I laughed at her friends' jokes when we went out. I played my role. To her, it must have looked like I'd brushed off her words. But behind that calm, I was already building my exit. And she didn't see a thing. The first step wasn't dramatic. It was subtle, quiet. I started by creating space. When she wanted to scroll her phone late into the night, I stopped lying there beside her waiting for her to put it down. Instead, I'd get up, go to the den, and read until I fell asleep on the couch. She'd sometimes come looking, standing in the doorway with her arms crossed. You're really sleeping out here again? Just easier, I'd say. And I'd smile, calm, controlled. No fight. No explanation. And that unsettled her more than any argument ever could. Next, I started detaching from the little routines that had defined us. I used to make her coffee every morning before she woke up. I stopped. I'd pour my own, leave the pot empty. She noticed on the third day, frowning at the cold machine. Forgot to make mine? I shrugged. Didn't think you'd want it. No sarcasm. No bite. Just flat truth. She poured her own coffee after that. But I saw the way she looked at me over the rim of her mug, like she couldn't quite figure out when things had shifted. Then came the financial moves. I opened a separate account, started funneling part of my paycheck into it. At first, just small amounts she wouldn't notice. Then more. I called it insurance in my head, a safety net for when the moment finally came. I went through the house quietly, collecting what was mine before the marriage. Tools, books, old keepsakes. Packed them into boxes, stored them neatly in the garage where she never looked. Piece by piece, I was reducing the life we shared into something portable. And she didn't see any of it, because she wasn't looking. One night, she came home late. No explanation, no apology. She dropped her bag on the counter, poured herself a glass of wine, and sat at the table scrolling her phone. I was in the kitchen making dinner. I didn't ask where she'd been. I didn't accuse. I didn't even glance at her screen. Instead, I just said, "You hungry?" She blinked, caught off guard. "Yeah, I guess." I set a plate in front of her, kissed her on the forehead, and sat down across the table. The kind of gesture I used to make out of love. Now I made it out of strategy. Because nothing throws someone off balance like kindness without attachment. And I could see it in her eyes. She couldn't read me anymore. Over the following weeks, she started trying harder. She'd cook dinner twice a week. Suggest a movie night. Ask if I wanted to take a weekend trip. Little things. Things she hadn't bothered with in years. To her, it was an attempt at repair. To me, it was proof of what I'd already known. She didn't change because she loved me. She changed because she felt me slipping away. There's a difference between wanting someone and wanting not to lose them. And I wasn't interested in being someone's last-ditch effort. The real turning point came one Saturday afternoon. We were in the backyard, trimming the hedges. It was quiet, the kind of silence that used to feel comfortable. She wiped her forehead, looked at me, and said, "I feel like we're doing better." I nodded. "Do you?" She smiled faintly. "Yeah, I know I've said things I shouldn't have, but I don't want us to fall apart. I don't want to lose you." For a moment, I just stared at her. The same woman who weeks earlier told me I was the man she settled for was now acting like losing me was the one thing she couldn't handle. I forced a smile. "I don't want that either." And she relaxed. But what she didn't know, what she couldn't know, was that while she was convincing herself I was still hers, I was already gone. That night, I lay awake beside her, her hand resting lightly on my chest as she slept. She probably thought she'd won me back, that her small efforts had repaired the cracks. But in my mind, I was already counting down, because I'd chosen my moment. And when it came, it wouldn't be loud. It wouldn't be angry. It would be silence. The kind of silence that can't be filled. By summer, Leah was acting like a woman in love again. Or at least, trying to. She'd greet me at the door when I got home, smile wider than usual, kiss me like we were still dating. She started texting me little things during the day. "Thinking of you, miss you. What do you want for dinner tonight?" Messages I hadn't seen in years. To her, these were signs of us finding our way back. To me, they were evidence of exactly the opposite. Because love that only appears when someone feels you slipping away isn't love, it's fear. Behind her smiles, I was finishing the last of my preparations. The new bank account was secure. The apartment was already rented, furnished, ready for me to move in at a moment's notice. I had one final box in the garage that held only the essentials, clothes, documents, a few keepsakes. And I'd been practicing the one thing most men struggle with, silence. Silence at dinner when she dropped her phone face down on the table. Silence when she came home later than she said she would. Silence when she slipped and said another man's name while half asleep. A younger version of me would have exploded, demanded answers, started a fight. This version of me knew better. Silence is sharper than anger. And Leah was starting to feel the cut of it. One evening, we went to dinner with friends. The kind of double date we hadn't done in months. Leah was laughing louder than usual, touching my arm, kissing my cheek in front of everyone. On the surface, it looked like affection. But I knew the truth, it was performance. When we got home, she curled up beside me on the couch, rested her head on my chest, and whispered, "I love you, you know that?" I smiled faintly, kissed her hair, and said, "I know." But what she didn't know was that I was already gone. The timing of my plan wasn't random. I didn't want to leave when she expected it. Not in the middle of a fight, not after a cold silence, not when tensions were obvious. I wanted to leave when she believed everything was fine, when she had let her guard down completely. That's when absence would cut the deepest. So I played along. I let her think we were rebuilding. I let her think the little gestures were working. I let her believe she was pulling me back in. And with every day that passed, she relaxed a little more. She even started talking about the future again. Kids, trips, even remodeling the house. All the things she'd stopped mentioning months ago. It almost made me laugh, listening to her dream about a future with me, when mine was already set in motion without her. The final piece of my plan was simple, my exit letter. I wrote it late one night while she slept beside me. Just a single page, no wasted words. Leah, the night you told me I was the man you settled for, I believed you. That was the moment I stopped being your husband and started being your exit. I've given you years of loyalty, patience, and love. But I will not spend another day as someone's second choice. By the time you read this, I'll be gone. Don't try to find me. Don't try to call. My silence is the only answer you'll ever get from me again. I folded it, slid it into an envelope, and tucked it away in my bag, waiting, because the day was coming, the day I would leave without a sound. One weekend, Leah suggested a short trip, just the two of us. A cabin by the lake. A reset. I agreed. We spent the weekend walking trails, grilling food, drinking wine by the fire. She laughed like she hadn't in years. She kissed me like it was our honeymoon. She even whispered one night, "I'm so glad we made it through." I kissed her back, steady, calm, and whispered, "Me too." But inside, I felt nothing, because I knew she wasn't winning me back. She was just rehearsing for the goodbye she didn't see coming. And when we drove home that Sunday, she looked so content, so certain we were better, that I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Because she had no idea. The countdown was already over. The moment was already chosen. And soon, Leah was going to wake up to a silence she couldn't laugh off, couldn't fix, couldn't escape. The kind of silence that says everything. The morning of my exit looked ordinary. That was the point. Leah was humming softly in the kitchen, frying eggs, sipping coffee. She smiled when I walked in. "Morning, babe." "Morning," I said, steady, calm. We ate breakfast together. She chatted about her week, about a work event coming up, about wanting to book another trip this fall. I nodded at the right places, smiled when I should have. To her, it must have felt like a normal morning. To me, it was the last one. When she left for work, she kissed me quickly at the door. "Don't be late tonight, I'll make something special." I kissed her back. Wouldn't miss it. But I knew I'd never be there. The moment the door shut, I moved quickly. The duffel bag was waiting in the garage. I picked it up, walked through each room one last time. The bedroom where we once dreamed. The living room where laughter had turned into silence. The kitchen where she told me I was the man she settled for. On the counter, I placed the envelope. Her coffee mug sat beside it, waiting like always. I set my key on top and walked out without a sound. By noon, my phone started buzzing. First, "Hey, want me to pick up anything for dinner?" Then, "Where are you?" Then, "Did you take your bag? What's going on?" I didn't respond. By evening, the tone shifted. "This isn't funny. You need to come home." Then, "If you walk away like this, you'll regret it." And finally, "Please, don't do this." I didn't mean it. I need you. But silence was my answer. The next day, she must have found the letter. Because that evening, there was pounding on my new apartment door. I opened it to see her standing there, tears streaming, voice cracking. "You can't just leave me." That night, I didn't mean it the way it sounded. "You're not just someone I settled for." I stared at her calmly. "Yes, you did. Maybe not with malice. Maybe not with intent. But you meant it. And once you said it, I couldn't unhear it." She shook her head, crying harder. "We can fix this. We can go to therapy. I'll prove it, just don't walk away." I shook my head slowly. "Leah, I spent years proving myself to you. Years trying to be the man you wanted. And the entire time, I was never really chosen. I was just convenient." Her face crumpled. "I didn't think you'd actually leave." I stepped back, my voice calm, final. That was your mistake. And I closed the door. That was the last time I saw her face. For weeks, she tried texts, calls, mutual friends reaching out. I didn't answer. Not once. Because silence has a weight that words can never carry. And in that silence, she finally understood what she'd lost. I was never the man she settled for. I was the man she never deserved. And now she'd spend the rest of her life knowing it.